Together, we will ensure that the next chapter of our district and the borough tells the story of how we did not shrink back from unprecedented challenges. Instead, it will tell how we stood firm in the face of adversity and continue to lay the foundation upon which a greater, greener, fairer, and more sustainable Queens will be built.
On January 31st, Council Member Costa Constantinides delivered his State of the District at PS2 in East Elmhurst, during which he laid out several of his plans and proposals for 2019, which, as he stressed, will enhance resiliency, sustainability, and opportunity throughout his 22nd district, which covers Astoria, parts of Woodside, East Elmhurst, and Jackson Heights. As part of his bold vision of making Queens, as he stressed, greater, safer, more sustainable, and the leader of cleaner and greener energy, Mr. Constantinides called for a sweeping upgrade of Astoria Boulevard, more renewable energy within Council District 22 schools, and replacing the jail on Rikers Island with green infrastructure. His delivery, which was supported with slides, highlighted also several of the major victories accomplished for District 22 in 2018, which include, among other, park improvements, affordable housing, education, and greener projects for schools and the community. In highlighting these victories, Mr. Constantinides expressed his most sincere thanks and heartfelt appreciation to the Mayor's Office, to Council Speaker Corey Johnson, to Queensborough President Melinda Katz, and to the Queen's delegation for partnering with him and, as he stressed, more importantly, for providing necessary funding allocations. As far as upgrading Astoria Boulevard, the Councilman called on the New York City Department of Transportation to conduct a comprehensive review of the 4.5-mile Astoria Boulevard, which runs from the Triborough Bridge to Citi Field. Despite efforts to keep large trucks merging onto the Brooklyn-Queens Expressway, the street has still seen significant backups and accidents in the last year. The council member also suggested a new police station house with a parking garage to replace the 50-year-old home of the 114th precinct, as the current layout leads to blocked intersections, sidewalks, and overpasses. As part of his Greener Queens advocacy and building upon his recent announcement that 6 Council District 22 schools will be powered with solar energy, Constantinides announced his plan of making PS2 the first carbon-neutral school in New York City. As he explained, a city scanning tool shows that this East Elmhurst school qualifies for geothermal energy, which uses groundwater for heating and cooling. It should be noted that geothermal energy eliminates the need for fossil fuel burning boilers and keeps long-term energy costs low. He further announced that solar panels will also be added to give this school a clean and renewable source of electricity.
That not only added new play equipment and
The councilman also introduced a plan that will replace the jail at Rikers Island with green infrastructure, as recommended in 2017 by former New York State Chief Justice Jonathan Lippman. The city has vowed to close the detention center within the next decade in favor of borough-based jails, freeing up the 400-acre Rikers Island, which is located within District 22. Mr. Constantinides explained that his plan is based on a research conducted by the CUNY Center for Urban Environmental Reform, which calls for 100 acres to be used for solar energy creation and battery storage, and thus closing some of the secondary power plants within city limits, many of which are in poor and low-minority neighborhoods. Through this plan, as explained, New York City would also be able to build a new sewage treatment plant that is resilient against the rising sea levels and other effects of climate change, and thus close the facilities in Astoria and College Point in Queens, as well as in Hunts Point in the Bronx, all of which are aging, overburdened, and push sewage into our waterways when it rains more than half an inch. Among other key announcements made by Council Member Constantinides during his State of the District is his legislation in the works directing the DOT to determine on a neighborhood-by-neighborhood basis whether parking meters should be suspended during religious services so that religious communities will be allowed to take part in their sacred traditions and prayers without worrying about an expensive parking ticket. For community cultural organizations and other youth groups who do not own a performance space, Mr. Constantinides also announced that a new performing arts center will be provided in Western Queens, accessible to all. This new space, Mr. Constantinides stressed, will become the permanent home for plays and musicals, for the Senior Stars program, for education, and for after-school programs. And it is being built in response to the ongoing requests from the community.